You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the town of Swanzey.
We'll open the meeting, Selectmen's meeting of June 21st, 2020.
Make the motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 14th.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 14th. Any further additions, deletions? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make the motion we approve the non-public meeting minutes of June 14th.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the non-public meeting minutes of June 14th. Additions, deletions? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Make the motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any additions?
Yes, we have an addition for tax deed notice issue.
Did you hear that?
I did not.
Okay. You need to pay attention. And
You got my whole attention there.
We have a meeting for a front property on Franklin Hill Road, one of the tax deed properties. We had a noticing issue, and they were deemed for the eating balance, so they were deemed that to get back to the owner's last name. We will evolve on Franklin Hill Road.
Okay. We'll add that.
we'll add that. Any further additions? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
That's it for me.
You gonna make a nomination?
Oh.
No, that's me. Where do you want?
You don't have the mic.
Oh, you should press the little loud button.
Okay. Oh, that's good. As you know, we've got a public hearing tonight. I have additional use at the Potash Wall coming up this Saturday. Now I'm live.
You were all
Well, anyway, this sort of came to be a little bit a week or two ago as Jenna was leaving, and so everything went through. It is called Church Fest 2023. They were actually there in Article, I want to say 2018. It is it's not the church I went to. We all know churches nowadays have different kinds of music more than what we used to. So it's bands at Potash Wall. It is a Saturday from noon to 8. It is when the going, so it is not anywhere to take a form that night. I ask that you guys approve, and this is short notice for you. Ask that you approve. Use their helping fund us, with this donation to use this place. So right now, funds are pretty.
Did you state the date and time, so you're going to restate it?
What was that?
The date and times for the event?
It is 6/24 this Saturday. The time is 12 noon for the act. They'll be here before 7 at 8 and then break it down.
What do you anticipate for attendance?
Expects for attendance through the day to be only 100 people. As the church, different units come in, different people will be there, so it's an in and out thing. It's not like people come and stay the whole time.
So in total, 100 people over 8 hours?
Yep. It was, like I said, we had them there before. I didn't think they had a lot of people, so.
We don't have the number of units. I guess it'd be one house there.
308.
Great.
So you,
Motion?
Yes.
you'll let that, you'll let that drive.
Yes.
So our motion is to approve permit 2023-08 for Saturday, June 24th, from noon to 8 p.m. All right, make that motion.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking that this is not all repeat the entire motion again.
Are you kidding? It was on the fly. All right, I'm making a motion that we approve permit number 2023-08
Yes.
for the use of Potash Bowl 6/24/23 from the hours of noon till 8 p.m. for Church Fest.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
The motion been made and seconded and repeated.
Repeatedly.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion that we approve Mark Scalera for the Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Second? He's a alternate or?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And the motion been made and seconded to approve Mark Scalera. Economic Advisory Committee. Further discussion. Hearing none. Who's there?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Absolutely. My roll's done.
all right. July meeting schedule. Is he here?
Right here.
Aha. Now, why is it that the net not developed? Are you going to represent us? Okay? But no, it was nothing by Maddox. So, with that in mind, I will ask you to come forward and state your case.
And greetings, everyone. Thank you for having me here this evening. Michael, thank you for putting me on the schedule. The purpose of today's visit is to talk about how Monadnock Economic Development Corporation has been interacting with the town of Swansea and how we can continue to partner with the town, with its businesses and its residents. For a quick introduction and for context, my name is Cody Morrison. I'm the Executive Director of Monadnock Economic Development Corporation. We are a nonprofit regional development corporation covering about 41 towns in southwestern New Hampshire. There are 9 of us in the state. There are 9 RDCs, as we call them. And throughout the years, we've done a lot of real estate development. We've done business lending. We've done other activities in the Keene area, in Jaffrey and Swansea, and everywhere else in between. And the reason why we're coming here today is we've gone through a little bit of a transformation, and we've brought on some new programming and changed our direction, so we wanted to let the select board and the community know about it. I regularly interact with town officials, the town planner, Sarah Bullinger, and Michael Brandley, but we wanted to tell the community just in a broader context, in a more open forum, about what we've been up to and how we can help. So to begin, I started this role about a year ago, and Actually, one of my first visits here, or one of my first site visits, was actually with Bill and Michael and David Bollinger, or not David Bollinger, the airport manager. We had lunch over at Mama McDonough's over at the airport, and ever since then, we've come by town hall on a few different occasions. I'd say a couple weeks ago. Now it's back in April. A couple months ago, we brought the state's business, some people from the state's business recruitment and economic development team. We're doing a tour of Western Cheshire County. So we're in Hinsdale, Chesterfield, Winchester, and then we came up to Swansea to wrap it up. But we stopped by town hall to meet with Michael and Sarah, just to talk about some things that are coming down from the state that we can talk about for business recruitment, and why this part of New Hampshire is a desirable place for you to come and bring your business to, or to expand. Another, probably my second meeting here within Swansea, Michael, Sarah, and I hopped in the car in one of the town vehicles, and we went for a drive all throughout the community. So I got to see a little different corners of Swansea that I may not have been familiar with. I think before then, my only interaction or knowledge of the community really was Papagallo's. Great place. My wife's parents love it. On occasion, we'll forward things just to the town manager and to the town planner, grant opportunities, businesses that are looking to expand or relocate, just as they come along. I think last week we forwarded a grant program from the Department of Housing and Urban Development just in case there's anything that the town could take advantage of. We've also attended 4 Economic Development Advisory Committee meetings, 2 in person, 2 by phone. Sarah's been great about putting me on speakerphone in the middle of the table, but we like to keep tabs on what's going on with the EDAC committee. And recently, I worked with Sarah Bollinger and Kathy Bergstrom on kind of refining their mission statement for the committee, just so they have kind of that path forward on where they can focus their efforts on. I think I last met with them a couple weeks ago. It was earlier this month, I recall. And another thing we did was Leadership Monadnock. It's a program that's sponsored by the Regional Chamber of Commerce, or now the Greater Monadnock Collaborative. We helped bring their May cohort to the airport. The subject for that month was economic development, and so we had suggested to the chamber that you should bring it to the airport in Swansea because of the region, or because of the impact that the airport has in the region between air traffic, commercial traffic, and just general commerce over there. And on the business side, recently we toured a local manufacturer. We brought somebody from the state's economic development team over there, and we were able to meet with the business owners and get a feel for what their business is doing, what needs they have, and what we can do to help them grow. And that's just a basic snapshot of what we do and what we've been doing to work with municipalities throughout the region. In the past, we typically focused more on brick and mortar things, and it would focus on specific activities within community. But now, with our current trajectory, we're expanding our service to be able to provide broader services and support for municipalities. So a few of our existing programs that we have that can help the Swansea community. We have our lending programs. We have $1 million that's available for businesses that want to expand or grow. That also includes schools and nonprofits. We've had loan prospects for projects in Swansea even, and we've lent to businesses that are based here also. But we do have a few things that are on the horizon that we did want to let the community about and let the select board know about. A couple weeks ago, we announced that we received a $1 million award from the Environmental Protection Agency for what's called a brownfields loan program. So we'll now be able to provide grant and loan capital for municipalities, nonprofits, and private developers that are looking to redevelop sites that are contaminated, old mills, gas stations, laundromats. So that's another tool in our toolbox that we'll be able to use to help revitalize the community and improve lives. So if the town of Swansea had, let's say, tax deed to the gas station or some other site that may be contaminated, we'd be able to provide low interest, even as low as 0% loans or grants for cleanup of those sites. So we work very closely with the Southwest Region Planning Commission with that program. That'll be launching later this year. We also are announcing, there's a public announcement today in Concord about a $400,000 home-based childcare housing rehab program, which that will help families retrofit their homes to gain licensure so that they can run home-based childcare centers. We have a cohort right now that's learning, that's part of this program that is from Swanzey. So this program will also give them business training, will give them provider training, and licensure consulting, all for free. And yep, right out of their own home. And,
That grant program are businesses that are home-based childcare operations that are currently operating, are they eligible? Or is there-
Yep. No, that can be for existing ones as well that are looking to expand. So, for instance, if you need to knock out a wall or build a back fence or build a fence in your backyard, or if you need to, smooth out your backyard, we've all tripped, we've all rolled an ankle in a backyard at one point or another. But another thing we're working on is bringing some money to the region for lead abatement for homes. We signed on as part of a bigger regional collaborative to try to get a couple $1 million from the federal government for lead remediation. So if there's any old apartment buildings that are uninhabitable because of high lead concentrations, then we'll be able to help out there too. So that can be for residential homes, that can be for apartment blocks. So those are a few of the things that we have on the horizon. One last thing that we're going to be sending information out on when it's made publicly available. We're working with the state right now to organize a day where most of the state's Department of Business and Economic Affairs comes to the region to kind of showcase their programs and services that they have. So businesses will be able to go and learn about government contracting or international commerce. Municipalities will be able to learn about the housing programs or the Northern Border Regional Commission program or anything else that the Department of Business and Economic Affairs has. So we are working with the Chamber of Commerce and with the state to bring that here to the region. So that'll be August 29th that that'll occur. And one last thing is back earlier, I believe it was probably last fall, we contracted with the town to provide a grant administration assistance for the Northern Border Regional Commission grant that was received last year. And that would have been for the West Swansea project. So we're starting to kind of increase our impact in a few different ways. But this is all done in the sense of making us a more well-rounded organization and being able to provide service to communities outside of a bigger brick and mortar building or something like that. But just from what I'm hearing, for what it's worth, just in my talks with businesses, with people around town, people from Concord and Washington, is Swansea's really a town that has their act together on community and economic development. I think we're starting to see a real spillover effect here in Swansea, very similar to what like Rochester and Dover are seeing just from the seacoast. There's a lot of development happening in those communities. Often when I'm talking to companies that are looking to expand or to relocate to this region, I often brag about Swansea on the housing front and how many units have been permitted and all the great construction that's happening over here. So Swansea is very much an active part of our conscious, and when we're looking at programming and when we're looking at making our pitch to the state and to the rest of the country for that matter. So with that, in a nutshell, that's what we've been up to lately, and those are a few ways that we can partner with the community of Swansea, whether it be the local government, residents, or businesses. And with that, we'll leave it open if there's any questions.
Can you talk a little bit more about the event on the 29th of August? Is it a trade show format? Is it a format like this, a combination?
It'll be kind of like a trade show format where there will be. We're still finalizing some of the details, but the idea of it is that there will be different booths in different departments set up in different areas. We're still finalizing the location right now, But the idea of it is that instead of getting everyone to run one room to listen to a panel full of speakers, you and your business, or you'll be able to come in or out and speak with BEA staff just to learn about the various programs that they have.
So they would be doing the setup, would there be any other organizations?
Yep.
that would participate?
Yep. So it would be just the Department of Business and Economic Affairs that would be hosting it. We're just helping with organizing and picking a place and doing the local promotion of it. We hope to see plenty of people from Swansea over there, but we're excited for it to happen.
Is there anything we can do to help you promote that?
Come, tell your friends. Tell your friends. once we can issue a press release, and once we can get some information, have a one pager essentially to hand out to everyone. You can certainly help this by promoting, letting the businesses know. I think this is something for local government. It's relatively easy to be in tune with this stuff, and it's stuff that we'll naturally go to, but I think the bigger opportunity lies with the business community. It's hard to get away from the shop floor to go to a government trade show to learn about how to contract with the government or to learn about international commerce. And we can't rely on one person from Concord always coming out here. So what we're trying to do is just bring everybody out here, which is very exciting. People from their business recruitment team, all their departments, but letting businesses, the community, anyone that would be interested in business or housing or community development.
When do you think you'll have the details finalized?
Should be sometime in July. It's the date is going to be August 29th, and then it'll be late morning until probably middle afternoon.
Is there a benefit for us to send members of our staff to go through and interact, or do you see it solely as business related?
No, BEA has plenty of programs that the municipality can take advantage of. I understand that Swansea benefited from the housing demo grant program that was available and was able to get some money from the units that were permitted. So sending town staff to learn about any changes to programs that happen like that. I am aware of a few programmatic changes that they have yet to announce that they'll probably be able to speak out in detail there. But there are also other things on the business side that town staff can learn about if a business ever reaches out to town hall. There's information they can transmit, but I think there's a tremendous benefit to town staff just going and checking it out, just coming for an hour and grabbing some pamphlets and talking to some program managers. Yep, thank you.
Cody, I think you said at the beginning, you've been in the position of about a year.
I became a resident down here a year ago today, so time flies. I started the job July 5th.
So to Ken's point, I've met with, spoken to, emailed with Cody 2 or 3 times more than any of his predecessors combined here in 6 or 7 years. So he's definitely up there calling about properties, saying that he's interested in this, what's the zoning look like, so I just want
Thank you.
Well, you've got to understand that I've been around for a long time, and your predecessors left a lot to be desired. Now, I realize that I may be a minority at the table, making a statement like that, but I'm going to tell you, I firmly believe that. Okay? And so you can show me that you are involved with the other towns. So be it. And we'll go on from there.
Well, I would like to echo what Michael said. That I know that Cody in this past year has been very proactive, not only with Swansea and Keene, but with other communities, but more particularly with Swansea, and your help with regard to grant opportunities and the knowledge that you're bringing to our staff. I absolutely echo what Michael said.
Thank you. Thank you. And last night I was at a Lions Club meeting in Antrim. So we cover parts of Western Hillsborough County as well, and we can certainly understand how there is that idea that could be keen economic development. That's not lost upon me. So, but we're excited because with our new programming, emails and phone calls and meetings, they're great. We can show that we're not forgetting about the communities, but what we're doing with our upcoming programming here that we're looking that we're going to be launching is we'll be able to make a material impact beyond just a building, beyond just a loan to a private business. We'll be able to if the town planner calls me and says, hey, we have a developer that's looking at renovating this duplex. Is there anything that you can do to help with them? We'll be able to contract with them through a lead program, or if there's a local family here. So we're really just trying to expand our toolbox and do whatever we can just to impact the region, and make sure that it's a regional approach to everything. It's not just one population center, not just one community. We make sure that we are paying attention to everything that's going on in our region.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we're looking forward to working with the town and its businesses and residents moving forward. And Swansea's a fun place to be. I always enjoy coming down here. There's always good stuff going on. Michael always has something good going on, and we like bragging about Swansea. It's an easy thing to do. Great, thank you.
July's, it's your agenda. What?
You were making me wonder.
Really?
You're curious?
I wonder, curiosity, whatever. July meetings.
So I don't have strong preference necessarily on which dates, but just as general suggestion, we try to be twice throughout the month. So the 5th is the day after 4th. So that'll be kind of a weird week, doesn't necessarily, most of the time it's Monday, so that's not necessarily a problem.
Can we open on the 3rd?
We are open on the 3rd, and also suggested maybe be modified. That's our 9:30 to 6 days, so probably not going to get a lot of people from 4 to 6 on July 3rd. Probably not going to get a lot of people anyway, but this is the first day. But there's definitely some of those. So I would want to maybe modify to do 8:30 to 5. It is the first day of the month, so there's going to be some people who forgot some. June's going to have, I guess, do their auto registration. So again, I'm starting a firm proposal, but I think say within the 6 is roughly very popular.
So will you,
What's the 6th?
Until 6 p.m. So
Oh, until 6.
I think it should be normally 35.
what is your recommendation for 12 and 26? What's your recommendation?
Well, if we don't meet next week, I would go to the 5th. Actually, I know you don't.
So, what did we decide? The 12th. We're going to meet on the 12th and the 26th. So does that mean we are meeting next week? Okay.
As needed. But not at this time.
Number 602. Mr. Chairman, it's 602.
Okay. Are we okay with 8:35 on Thursday?
I'd be in favor of an early call. I think you're going to have these personal days.
Around the 4th.
Snow day.
I don't care, whatever.
I mean, there should be, yeah, there should be work. So you could always take your back suit or county, right? You're gonna be over 84.
I'll make the motion that we accept the bid of $17,100 for map 16, lot 19, and direct the town administrator to prepare closing documents.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Move to accept the bid of $122,322 for map 16, lot 13, and direct the town administrator to prepare closing documents.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
I didn't have to finish.
That's fine, that's still.
Right, so we're gonna skip that one, we're up to number 8.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
So we've got a public hearing scheduled. Somebody over there. And, we are up.
Okay.
Are you speaking as the public or?
No, I'm speaking. I'm glad to be back. I'll put it this way. It was it was a nail biter and a little bit of sweat a couple of weeks ago before we decided it was definite. So I'm glad to be here. And I've had a lot of input from people, but I haven't put a lot of advertisement of any sort out because I didn't want to until you guys are on board.
Why the delay on the advertising? Was it timing or?
Because I'm waiting for the official approval. I mean, I have put one thing out and I've got a lot of feedback back. Once I leave tonight, I'm going to go big time. So,
Good with it?
All right, is there anybody in the public who is here tonight to speak for or against the bill? Hearing none, we'll close off public hearing.
Excuse me, I'll make the motion as written to approve the schedule.
Second?
Motion been made, seconded, to approve the plans for the
Dan's in the bowl on the schedule provided.
and thank you.
That's it. Good evening, everyone. Starting on the side. Appreciate everybody showing up tonight regarding the ambulance situation. We think we are ready for the situation. But we want to hear from anyone who wants to speak. Mike?
Yeah, I think the intention of tonight's meeting was to have more of a roundtable discussion amongst the communities involved. Obviously, we had the presentation from the provider and some question and answer, but obviously, like many of you, we've been kind of wrestling with the decision, and as we talked about at the other meeting, our decisions impact each other. So we wanted to give the communities an opportunity to come back in, kind of describe what your thoughts are, what you're thinking, what our concerns and our thoughts are.
Where do I be going or ask her?
Oh, and yeah, let's start right off. Who has questions, who has answers? Well,
I mean, obviously, the cost difference is pretty significant for Swansea. It's the difference between 48,000 in the first year for Chester County or 320,000 for the rest of the county. I know everyone's looking at different, or similar kind of exponential changes, but for us, that's a lot of money. But it's not a decision we're making. Similarly, especially on the county and the backup is that you mentioned there, and you mentioned that curriculum is contracted to provide backup if they're coming from Hillsborough or that area. That's obviously a far distance away. But it might be a benefit to some of the on t-shirts. I don't know.
This town so far, we haven't received any, as from judgment, which I think yeah. A couple of times, it's needed, nation for cost, and yeah, pressure. For cost involved. So when you have the person of the country party person gave us estimated costs, has to ask for a contract. I don't know about everybody else here, anybody else was speaking, yeah, that's for Cheshire.
Still has.
Yeah,
We have.
go ahead. Started it, we have a contract in front of us for both, so.
For both of us.
Mr. Coach, a question from Town of Sullivan. So they requested a proposal and were not provided with one. Can you speak to that, please?
If they have, I haven't been made aware of, I haven't received it. I'll have to check. But,
I told them
who's that?
who's that?
Give me, one of these two right here. Okay. Well, then we'll get one out to you. I wasn't made aware of it. Any town that's been brought forward, we send something to them. Yeah, I can. Let me see.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Dryden. I'm the city manager for the city of Keene, and I want to thank Sean for being together and for including us in this conversation. In my opinion, and I share this opinion with the county, we are in a very unique position. And therefore, as the communities in Chester County, we are also in a very unique position. We have the opportunity to do things differently, to create a sustainable EMS network based on collaboration and coordination, not competition. You don't have to look around the state very long to understand 911 services are not self-sustaining through ambulance billing alone. More and more EMS services are folding or pulling back their services around us. They are competing and outbidding each other right out of business. So why are we competing with one another? And why are we using federal grant dollars to artificially reduce contract prices? I understand the county's original intent to ease all the communities into paying higher prices. I mean, you said on multiple occasions, you talked about your smoothing dollars in your contracts in year 2 and 3. But you don't really have to look very far to look at the numbers to know in year 4 that model has to change substantially. The county is new at this, and they did their best to come up with a financial model 2 years ago for EMS service. It's not based on actuals or experience, and it's going to need to dramatically increase, change, or be moved to our tax bills. 911 contracts do not make money. They are subsidized. They are either subsidized for standby fees or something else. That is a fact. I do believe the county went down this path of setting up EMS services because they wanted to support all of us, to provide services where there were none or where there wouldn't be any when Deluzio closed their doors, or to strengthen our services where it's needed. And in our very early conversations, I was reassured that it wasn't about competition. It was about helping all of our communities in this county. However, it has clearly turned into competition. Keene had 5 contract towns, and now we have 4, because they offered Westmoreland a substantially cheaper contract using their smoothing funds from the ARPA grants. We can't compete with that, and neither can Rescue Inc. So when Mike is talking about the difference in pricing between the two, absolutely right. There's no way we can financially compete with that. We've always just kept enough contract towns to bring in some revenue without putting us over the tipping point. But now the Keene taxpayers have had to pay out $100,000 of additional expense to run our ambulance service, between the loss of contract revenue and the loss of billing revenue. Then, they wanted Keene Fire to respond if the county couldn't, to back them up. Does that make any sense? If you are a Keene taxpayer, to use federal grant dollars to set up an EMS system that's meant to support us, but is now competing with us, I can't blame Westmoreland for wanting a less expensive contract. But if you're going to compete with us, don't expect us to help you do it. Their contract amount with Westmoreland is very different than the contract offered to Richmond. And I'm not sure why. I don't understand the financial model, but maybe that's something that the county can help us with, because Richmond and Westmoreland are very close to the same size, but Westmoreland has more calls, yet their amount is lower. Competing only erodes away the limited resources that we have to meet all of our needs. Sure, it may temporarily drive down your standby contracts, but at what expense? Is Cheshire County planning to overbuild the system to handle all of your contracts and be the sole provider of interfacility transfers to the hospital? We did make a pitch to the county to create a financial model which supports keeping Rescue Inc. as a part of our network and creates a collaboration between Keene Fire Rescue Inc., the county, and Great Brook, providing primary services and backup services to each other. Rescue Inc., Keene Fire, and the county chief and the Great Brook chief created a plan in very short order based on geography and capacity. However, this plan requires an agreement to not compete with each other. This plan also required the county to take a step back and support where needed so that the financial model needed to keep rescuing here in our region would be supported. And lastly, it would require them to reevaluate how they use the smoothing funds, and instead potentially redirect funds directly to communities to help offset the first initial year. Maybe the county thinks over time they can build a much bigger system and do it all without any of us. I'm not sure it's possible. We need the county for in-facility transfers, and right now I can tell you that they need us, because we've had to do a couple of the transfers for some very sick people out of Cheshire Med because paramedics were not available. In our pitch to the county, we had Keene plugged in to help when that happened in the future. But that only works in a model of collaboration, not competition. So what is the real price we are all going to pay if we do not get this right? It's a lot more than just tax dollars.
Keene. So Harrisville has been wrestling with this as the rest of us here at the table. I really appreciate that feedback. We've been hearing about attempts at collaboration and the conversations falling through. I think that, speaking for only myself, I'm very interested in regional collaboration. I think that my cohort on the select board and my cohort from EMS would say the same, but they can certainly speak for themselves. I think that it's crucial that we get it right this time. What I'm hearing from our EMS in Harrisville, reading information from around not just New Hampshire, but across the state of New Hampshire, the reimbursement is a huge factor here that's beyond our control. But there are two bills right now we can talk to our reps about. One's a Senate bill, one's a House bill regarding reimbursement. Healthcare costs a lot more than we wish today. EMS services cost a lot more than we wish today. I'm really, really hopeful that the outcome of this meeting is to strongly send a message that we want collaboration. Thank you.
I'm good. Do you need any response or any added information here? Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for everybody being here. I was intrigued by Elizabeth's statements. First off, my name is Dan Eaton. I know many of you here. I've been chair of the county delegation for the better part of 20 years. I've been a state rep since '75. I've been a director of Southwest Mutual Aid for over 20 years. And part of the county's coming into this is, I think, John, you were there 7 years ago, or maybe a little longer, that we had a system-wide meeting to ask what is the greatest fear and what is the greatest need in the system. Universally, everybody said EMS. Jump forward to the pandemic, and everybody's in a little bit of a crisis mode. The county asked the existing ambulance operator, anything we do for you? They said, yeah, we need some equipment. And we provided the funds to buy it. And after that, we said, anything else you need? And they said, yeah, buy us. We want out. And everybody was struck. But we put our heads together, we did some work, and I made an offer to the other provider. It appeared to be accepted. We did negotiations for another year. We tried our absolute best to buy that facility. It did not happen. But we did find that there was going to be a crisis. So we proceeded into starting the ambulance service. And yet we did use ARPA funds so we could have a debt-free ambulance service for the entire region. We had built-in plans to work with the city of Keene and to anyone within the mutual aid system. And our intent was, should everything collapse, that we would solicit the contracts of the other provider. As we're getting ready to do this, Don Caruso from the hospital called and said it was incredibly important to Cheshire Hospital that we do this and we do this fast. Get the ambulance service up and running. And they offered us a contract for the interfacility transfers. We have always been supportive of any sort of mutual aid. And ladies and gentlemen around the table, if you're a selectman or if you're a fire person, you know for a fact The county, we've been here for 200 years. We've got a track record. We provide outstanding service. We provide it at an incredible price. And every single year for the last 20, we have tried to reduce that cost while expanding the services and the professionalism. If you have someone at the nursing home, you know we provide the best service you can find anywhere. If you go to the County House of Corrections, sadly, we provide the best service. Yet we have also reduced the cost to the county by millions by using grants, by contracting properly, and doing our homework. We have hired 3 full-time grant writers to support the work we do at the county. More important maybe to some of the selectmen to do our track record, we run the county prosecutor program. How good has that been for you? And how cost efficient? We aren't sloppy in what we do. We did a lot of homework in putting this facility together. We have 8 boxes. We staff according to need, up or down. We have a fast car that is available that we sent to a call for Keene when they didn't have theirs. We are a full service operation that is cost efficient. It was not the administrator or anybody, the delegation asked for smoothing. Use our funds to smooth so there was not any price shock or sticker shock. We knew the previous provider was not on a sustainable basis of contract. So our theory was smooth it up to get you to where you need to go. So if there's an objection from Keene on that, I'm sorry. You get 3 years service for the price of 1. Boo-hoo. That's a real shame. You'll eventually get to a higher price. No question about it. But there's not a company in the world that's solid that would give you an idea what your price is going to be 4 years out. And I'm responsible for what Elizabeth said is a discontinuation of the progressive meeting that was going on, that was going to make things work. At the last meeting, there were a few folks here that said they would like to see cooperation. Okay, we've always been there. We've always wanted cooperation. We weren't the one that blocked it. We're hitting roadblocks. Our administrator reached out to the city manager and said, let's have a meeting. And the meetings went on. And as it progressed, it got to a point that Chris called me and said we need to chat. And he showed me what the general layout of the agreement might be, which basically said a company that doesn't have any interest in Cheshire County moves into Cheshire County and takes all the contracts. Keene takes all the other contracts. In Cheshire County, who just invested a whole lot of money in building a very professional service, sits back and waits for backup calls whenever somebody wants to do that. First of all, I'm not sure that's cooperation. We're in Cheshire County. You know what the great part of Cheshire County running this is? If, over a course of time, we turn a good profit, you get the benefit. You get the reduction, because that goes back to you. It's county. It's yours. You have state representatives, every single one of them. So you have representation at every single meeting of the county, which includes the operation of the ambulance. We, for reasons I will never understand, the county, we've been the subject of misdirection, of misinformation, of disinformation, and frankly, out and out lies. There has been really some nasty stuff put out towards the county, towards me. I get paid $100 a year. I can take the hits, and some of you probably think I'm overpaid. It demonstrates some of my value. But a lot of it's gone at the county administrator, who absolutely has no justification from anyone having shots taken at him. Everybody in this room knows Chris. You've worked with him in one fashion or another. You know his integrity, you know his background, and you know he's always out there to help. We've done a great job, and we want to continue to do that great job. Guess what? No matter what anyone decides, we will still be here, and we'll still be trying to do that great job. I think the best benefit to anyone here is to look at Cheshire County as your service. I think Rescue Inc. is a great company. But as Elizabeth went through a thing of disruption and all that, and I just want to get back to that one little part. Westmoreland did get a contract from us that was a Keene company. We didn't go after Westmoreland. We didn't ask Westmoreland. We didn't chase them. They came to us. And we actually told the city, we don't know what to, we don't really want to do this because it's one of your contracts. But they insisted, we're part of the county. You need to give us a price. They were right. They were 100% right. We had that obligation. We did give them a price. They took it. Well, there's an interesting thing about Westmoreland. We have a county nursing home there. And the Westmoreland Fire Department gets an awful lot of calls to go up to the county nursing home. And they don't get any payback for that. So part of our contract price with them is justified by the exceptional work that the town of Westmoreland does in taking care of our county nursing home. That covers some of the prices. We have been asked for an array of information that I find somewhat disbelieving. We're a vendor. We're the county, but we're a vendor when it comes to ambulance service. You want a contract, we offer you a service, we give you a price, and if you take the contract, we will provide you unbelievable service. But there's been third-party questions placed in the hands of some folks here for reasons that make absolutely no sense. So basically, you've gone through all the semantics. You've been given a plethora of information. We will do the best job we can for you. Make a decision. If you want somebody from out of state who has 2 boxes, we have 8. If you want somebody whose board of directors is out of state, not here, first county, we're here and you're part of it. If you want a company that's from out of state and whatever money they make, if they do, they keep. Or if you want something from the county, if we return a profit, it'll help you. Whatever you decide is fine, regardless of what happens here tonight. The county will still be here. We will still be providing our service and still available. But let's just make a decision. I'm not sure how many questions can continue to be answered and asked, how much more detail you can possibly need. The service is there for you. Make a decision.
Gentleman in back.
My name is John Snowden. I'm the Swanzey Selectman. I was one that started and voted in favor of this contract. I can't speak for the entire select board, but I can tell you why my vote was in favor of this. Westmoreland has a long history of cooperation. Westmoreland has a long history of cooperation with the county. As Commissioner Reed mentioned, we have a nursing home, we did have the jail, we also have the county farm. When we were waiting for a number for our budget process to be able to move ahead with the budget hearings, we got 2 numbers actually from Keene. One involved, one was going to be about $20,000 lower than it was last year, not quite, but close. The other, we were waiting to find out as to whether or not a grant was going to be awarded to Keene that would further lower our pricing. They would have lowered it by about another $7,000. My personal vote had nothing to do with money. And as was stated by Commissioner Reed, they did not come after us. We went to them. We were not solicited by the county. Even though we have a very good relationship, no one ever in the county ever called and asked us anything about our EMS service. So we asked them, they came and made a presentation to us. The presentation included the fact that they were looking long-term, at being able to put remote services within various regions. As towns join, they would go ahead and they would place an ambulance in an area that would be more conducive to serving that particular area. We knew we had the county farm, or the county home, the nursing home. And we were betting that we would have a chance at having an ambulance placed in Westwood. That was a chance on our part. My vote for that was not because of money, it was because of town safety. Keene did a very good job for us for a number of years, but Keene is not in our town. Keene is not, we were still looking at about approximately a 20-minute call for EMS to get to us. When they got there, they did a great job, no question about it. But in 20 minutes, if you're having a heart attack, we're not also, we're not just calling the ambulance, we're also calling someone to take care of the person active. So it's the first 6 minutes that really matter. When we made this decision, yes, we ended up saving over the course of 3 years approximately $150,000. I would have easily have spent that money, in my mind, I would have voted for that money to stay the same if it meant we were going to have EMS services right in our community. We work with a very, very good group of dedicated volunteer firemen. A lot of those firemen have day jobs. So if you end up having an issue during the day, there are very few people in town that are going to be able to serve, are going to be able to come to serve you. Having a service in town, we now have, won't say the name, one of our residents just had a 6-minute response time. 6 minutes. That's worth a lot of money. And as it worked out, we're still saving money, but we have this group in town. They've been phenomenal for us. We have had approximately 48 calls since April 1st. And the very first person to have Cheshire EMS show up at their house, the very first call that happened in town, actually came to the select board meeting the following Thursday. And not for this particular purpose, was for a part of the meeting. But at the end of the meeting, he asked for it to speak. And he wanted to tell us what a great job he thought Cheshire EMS did on his call. He was number one. This is the type of response we're getting from everyone that we speak to who has had the unfortunate need of having an ambulance come to their residence or recently. So part of the presentation that the county gave to the select board also included the fact that they were willing to do training for not only our volunteer fire department, but also for our citizens. So that is many years ago, I was EMT in another community. And I've always had this desire to see more of our residents trained in CPR and AED. Again, it's that first 6 minutes. So using the offer from the county, along with our deputy fire chief, we had a community CPR AED class where 1% of the town came on the Saturday Memorial Day weekend to be trained in CPR. 5 other people called and 1 actually came in to tell us that I am so sorry I can't be here today because I'm sick. There was a bug on me. So we're now looking at having another class so that we can continue training our residents. That's why we went with Cheshire EMS. It was the overall package. Yes, we're saving money. Thank you. We appreciate that. Our taxpayers appreciate that. But the level of service, the training, the commitment they have by having a ambulance stationed at Maplewood, that's why we ended up going to Cheshire EMS.
Right. I just want to underscore a couple of things and maybe clarify some things that Dan said. You know, we've spent a lot of time on the budgets. Everybody's got an opinion about it. I don't really care about that. We have spent hours and hours consulting with people that have been in the ambulance business for decades. And we have a flexible, variable schedule because one of the things that we recognized that was a stumbling block with our conversation with the city of Keene was, and the Rescue Inc. proposal, not competency, but it's an all or nothing thing. And I get it, it's really easy, come up with a single formula and you're either all in or you're not. We never approach it that way. We have so many formulas out there and we have added and subtracted the budgetary impact of so many towns in, so many towns out, that sort of thing. Try to establish a reasonable, responsible process for individual towns through their board of selectmen, fire chief, to make their own decisions, the decisions they're obligated and have a right to make in their towns. It's not our decision which EMS agency you use. It's not the city of Keene's decision which agency you use. And we're not about to pressure you or coerce you into using a single all or nothing thing. So our financial model is profoundly variable because our interest is to use our federal dollars to ease everybody into it at a timeline and a decision line that they're comfortable with. And that you shouldn't be under pressure to do that. So, yeah, a lot of people don't understand our formula, but that's not your problem. We have made proposals to the town, we've made proposals to, and we're going to stand by those. And we're going to live by those for at least the next 3 years, and we're going to walk down the road to see, as the city manager says, where the costs go from there. Yes, it is going to be more expensive tomorrow than it was yesterday. There's no question about that. I think by now you all kind of get that. But again, at the direction of the delegation, our interest was to give the towns a number of years to adjust their budgets and soften the impact on taxpayers by gradually getting up to a sustainable pricing model. Do I know what that is as we sit here today? No. Do you know what things are going to cost 4 years from now? No. But we're not going anywhere. We've invested millions of dollars to do this on behalf of you. The only reason we went down this road was because nobody else stood up. Nobody else had the capacity, the interest, or the resources to do what we did. So we did it. We did this for you. And up until the time that Westmoreland decided to come with us and the city of Keene basically went to war with us, we wouldn't even be here. But the good news is, now you've got choices. You can go with Rescue Inc. or you can go with the county. They're going to live by their proposal, which is perfectly responsible. We're going to live by ours. So, you know, I don't know what else we can tell you. We're going to have 8 ambulances. We've bought and paid for them. We're going to staff them according to the demand that needs to be staffed. We're going to continue to do the interfacility transfers, which is some level are just as important as the 911. Those people need care too. And, you know, I really would just want to underscore, we started this whole discussion after years of discussion with the community about what we're going to do going forward. And we filled that void on behalf of you. Does that mean you have to use us? No. You could use Golden Cross. You could use Peterborough. You can use Keene. You can use Rescue Inc. You've got choices. You've got choices. And all of the internet and Facebook banter isn't going to change our proposals and isn't going to change our commitment and dedication to serving the people of Cheshire County. So we stand ready to meet your needs. If you want us now, if you want us later, in the future, we're not going anywhere. We are going to be here. And so you have choices. And as Dan said, it's time to make a decision in our group. Nothing else new or different is going to transpire. As of a few days ago, we're a rival organization to the fire department union. That's just the way it is. I can't fix that. I can't undo any mistakes we made. I can't undo, and nor do I want to undo our commitment to the community to provide a sustainable, locally owned and directed EMS service now and forever. But you guys get to decide. We're not going anywhere. And each town board has the legal responsibility to make decisions for their town. And we will be there for you whenever you make that decision. And you get no pressure from us. Thank you.
Just a couple of comments. The agreement that we were proposing between all of the agencies did not have Keene picking up any accounts, but we're not interested in picking up new contract accounts, and I think we've been pretty clear about that. And so, I want to clarify that, because I think the point is missing. I think we're missing it. We have an opportunity. The county is setting up a new service. They are very flexible in their pricing. They're very flexible in their location. So now's the time to look at the map and look at who provides what and where we need help. Where are the areas in the county that are not being properly served or don't have a service provider that can provide service to them? That's the time to do that, not after we build a substation. Keene is one of the largest paying communities to the county budget. It's not the time to do it later after it's been built. The time to do it is now, to have these conversations, to look at the map and say, how can the county support us? How can the county support you? And maybe, it works really well for Westmoreland. That's fine. We have no problem with that. We are not at war with the county. What we are doing is trying to force the conversation, to look at the bigger picture, to look at the county as a whole, to look at the resources that we have, stop the competition, come up with a pricing model, and work together so that we are supporting one another, because none of us are going to do it by ourselves. None of us. We all need help.
So, I think this is a great conversation, and I do feel it's very unfortunate what has happened between EMS and Keene and kind of that backlog and things like that, but I will say what it boils down to really what I think for all of the rest of us, because we're not in Keene, is that we have to pick one. I can't remember who said it, Danny or somebody else. What it boils down to me personally, I can't make the decision for Sutter, right? I'm only one of three. But what it boils down to me personally isn't necessarily just the price, although that's attractive, right? There's risks in pricing in both. I think that EMS will, I don't have a crystal ball, but go up, after their 3 years. Could we save money in the short term? Right, yeah, that's cool. The rescuing was very clear that to be viable, so there's a risk in their price from what I heard. That, the majority, if not all of us that were out here floating, would have to take them for, it to remain vital. So price-wise or continued service-wise, I see that there could be a risk. So in my head, what really is the most important thing is what somebody back here said, safety, right? What is the best choice for your town? Forget about whether it's going to cost you $64,000 or $14,000, right? What is the best choice for your town that you think is going to be sustainable long term? All I really care about, I'm not saying I don't care about money, but all I really care about is that when somebody in my town is dialing 911, somebody's going to get there and they're going to get there as fast as they can. That they've got enough of those ambulances that they're in another call, and yes, I know that we have backups and a lot of other things or whatever. For some of us, that's a little bit harder. Wilson and Stoddard, whatever, are a little further out to really think about what is that best choice. But that's what I think it comes down to. I hope those differences resolve, and I think you did a great job talking, and I hope that you continue to work out some of those things. But I do think it's irrelevant to my choice, and I just wanted to be clear on that. So, hope that helps. I still don't know the answer. Does anybody else have any thoughts on, how you're weighing out what's best for your town, and that's what I'd really like to hear and was hoping to hear tonight. Not that I want you to throw anybody else under the bus, but it's, oh, EMS is better for us, and we're leaning that way because of ABC, or rescuing is better for us because we're leaning that way in ABC. I think sometimes throwing out the pros and cons in your mind could help other people say, oh, I didn't consider that.
Yes, thank you. This is Andrew Manival. I'm from Harrisville. I think you put it very well. Obviously, what you said is what we're thinking about here. One thing, obviously in Harrisville, we've spent ARPA money. I'm sure Keene has spent ARPA money, and we've all spent ARPA money, and we know what it's for and how it can be used, and at the discretion of different towns and bodies. What I have heard about the county service as a possible concern is the financial model. And I've listened to what you've said, and I know from my own past experience, since I was in the delegation when this got started myself, that it is not only the expectation, but as I understand it, the rule that the ambulance service will not be paid for out of taxpayer money. And so my question is, not 4 years out, because we all don't know what the county service would cost or Rescue Inc. service would cost in 4 years' time. Nobody would expect to know that. But in the next 2 to 3 years, if the county representatives could express the reason for their comfort on the current model, you said flexible, and I don't fully understand what that means. If you could give me some more comfort in that respect, it would be helpful.
Sure. When we projected the budget, without getting into too much detail, we had data from every single town on both the number of runs, ambulance runs, and detailed by payer source. We knew the amount of transfers out of the hospital, and we knew those payer sources. So we had 5 years of data and reimbursement rates that we used to model the scenario for interfacility transfer rates to be certain that we could at least cover our costs, if not make a little excess revenue from that. And that isn't because the rates are different, it's because the volume is different. We're doing between 10 and 12 interfacility transfers a day. That generates more revenue than 2 or 3 ambulance calls where you still have to staff. So the concept is that any excess funds from the interfacility transfers helps to subsidize the fees paid by the towns and the insurance revenue produced by the runs in that town. And so we don't have to kind of make money, if you will, on the 911 stuff, because obviously that's not the point. But on balance with these 2 books of business, the numbers were suggesting that the rates we established over time would basically triple from the delusional model, augmented by the insurance receipts and supported by the revenue produced by interfacility transfers. We based that budget on something on the order of 1,400 transfers and the associated revenue based on the data behind that. We're over that. We're heading more towards 1,600 to 1,900 transfers. And so we still feel relatively comfortable at this early stage that the revenue received from that will help offset the subsidy necessary for 911 stuff. That's the basic model. It's no different than anybody else. It is basically very similar to what Rescue Inc. would propose to you in terms of subsidy, insurance, and that sort of thing. So that's the model. To buffer that, again, out of deference to the wishes of the delegation, rather than go from one number to tripling it within 1 year, the wish, the desire, the directive was use federal dollars to help towns get up to a sustainable price point for revenue. That was our directive. That's why we approached it. There's nothing objectionable about that. The union doesn't like it. Complaining about it a lot. But we have been walking down that road with our delegation gave us some money for years to be certain that everything we're doing every reason we're doing it for, and every dollar we're spending is appropriate, supportable, defensible, and useful. So that's why we feel comfortable at this early stage. Obviously, we haven't done a lot of 911 stuff because we've just been at it a couple of months. So is there data to support that model in that regard? No, not yet. But ultimately, I think that the models that you would get from anybody will resemble each other very closely, because we all swim in the same pool. The ambulances we buy, the staff that we hire, and the insurance that we build produces a certain amount of revenue. At some level, we all guess at that because much of the reimbursement rates are not clear, particularly with some of the private carriers. We work with state legislation to increase Medicaid rates. We're working with the Ambulance Association to have conversations over private, commercial insurance reimbursement rates. So we're using our federal and state delegates to improve the likelihood that we can do better financially than perhaps the Delusion or anybody else who doesn't have the sort of access that we have in the areas of the state and federal government. So anybody can say that those formulas are no good, and we're not prepared to believe that at the moment. We looked at 5 years worth of data. Yeah, we're taking our best shot with it. Here's the important thing. We made proposals to those who will receive them, and we're not backing down from them because that's not right. Are they wrong? Who knows? They may dramatically change going forward, but that's where we're at right now. And so there's really no more information that I think we can meaningfully provide to help you make a decision. We're all licensed, certified, nationally certified by the same people that are at your house. And so, Rescue Inc. has amazing people. Delusio had amazing people. The Keens have amazing people. Wouldn't bother me at all if any one of them show up to do it. So that's why we say, I don't know what else to say. It's time to make a decision. Clearly, Rescue Inc. gave you all something on the order of 90 days to either fish or cut bait. So, there's that pressure. That's not my pressure. That's your pressure. But we're ready to do whatever anybody wants us to do, and we'll do it the best as we can. And we will walk down that road with you as to what those ultimate costs will be.
The deadline point that Jack brought up is good one, probably something we should have addressed earlier. Did everyone receive the rest of the proposals that mentioned that contracts had to be signed by the end of June? Not, I just want to make sure that, so it seems like the 90 days is now 60 days.
Yeah, I just thought maybe some commentary must be helpful.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah.
Totally understand it. Thank you all for giving me a minute. First thing I wanted to mention, I understand the potential to other people or to us them, certain groups of people, but all of the 30 people that I work with live and reside here in New Hampshire, in this county, and I'm one of them. I live in Surrey. I pay taxes here, and I've been serving all of you for close to 2 decades. So while the company may be housed in Vermont, I think it's important to point out that, as many of you know who see us on calls and have interacted with us over these 2 decades, you've seen the same faces that you've been seeing for the last 2 decades that you've been getting service from the Delusio ambulance. So yes, we have a new administration. I'm wearing a different colored shirt tonight, but the faces and the quality of care that are getting delivered have only been augmented by Rescue Inc.'s participation, and not in any way, in my view, has detracted from it. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that we too hope that collaboration is possible between all of these agencies. One of the reasons that when Delusio Ambulance became unstable, that I started a conversation with both the City of Keene and Rescue Incorporated to try to pull together a plan in case the worst were to happen, is because I knew that nobody could do it on their own. It requires all of us to work together in order to do that. The sum total of all the contracts in the room right now for anybody that's represented is somewhere in the order of $630,000. The county has talked about the money that they spent on their project, which was well-intentioned, and I'm sure was designed to try to provide protection and service to all of you. An additional $630,000 would have obviously secured another very powerful partner in the region in delivering that stability to the community. So I think that that's another thing that we need to consider here, is that they do have access to a lot of money, and they've used it to build a program with very good intentions. But some other people could have been included in that conversation, because something that we've all been discussing and dealing with for 2 years now or more, it's been maybe 7 years or so since Megan Foley wrote her article in the Keene Sentinel, is something that I was able to solve with 2 other agencies in 28 hours. And our continued presence here would require $630,000. That's not a threat, that's not leverage, it's not even something I get a say in. It's the fact that we provide, still getting used to saying we, wearing a rescue Inc. uniform, but we provide a service that is stable and reliable to every one of the communities that we've been serving since 1966. And that financial model year over year, if we go back to the chart that Chief Hazelton presented in the last meeting, can show you, all of our finances are transparent, that this is what it takes to deliver EMS at this level, at this cost to the community in order to do it properly and to maintain stability over a long period of time. The last thing that I just wanted to comment on is that Rescue Inc.'s model is different from what Mr. Wozniak just described. We intentionally have siloed 911 calls financially, as represented in this financial model that you guys received from us and your contract, because we recognize that nothing is a guarantee. Just as much as we don't have a crystal ball to try to decide what things are going to cost in 4 years, I don't know that any one of the hospitals that we currently provide interfacility transfer services to are going to continue to choose us 100% of the time to service those transfers. Fair and open competition for government money exists everywhere outside of the 911 arena and in the interfacility transfer arena as well. Those contracts and relationships are fluid, and a change of leadership or influence or resources or staffing can easily push any hospital into a situation where they would choose to get that service from another provider. And in some cases, they might be compelled to get that service from another provider. And if that were to become the case here, then a model that backfills its financial obligations to the 911 side by subsidizing the transfer revenue is something that we believe is an existential risk to EMS going forward. Both of these services are important, as Mr. Wozniak mentioned. They're important because both of these communities of people are desperately in need of care. The entire EMS community is understaffed. We have cannibalized our workforce, and now we are in a position where we are choosing to fund one project or the other with revenue that's generated on the other side of the fence. I don't think that that's a model for stability going forward, and I think that all of us, as we've seen the costs increase for healthcare across the board, we're realizing that EMS is at the very bottom of that totem pole. And if we don't find ways to pay for both of these services that are very necessary to the community inside of their own financial silos, then every company that operates with a shift of funds is going to eventually have to come to terms with the fact that they could lose a contract from a town or they could lose a contract from a hospital. And when that happens, the cost of delivering the service is going to increase across the board. Thank you.
Tyler, I have a question. In this most recent proposal from Rescue, there's a $770 charge to transport and a $770 charge not to transport, treat and release. We've never dealt with anybody who's billing without transporting. Is that, am I reading this wrong? Do you know?
No, I don't think you're reading it wrong. That number seems high because there are only certain insurances that allow for you to bill for treat and not transport. So Medicare, for example, does have certain situations where if actual medical care is rendered, let's say somebody's complaining of chest pain, a paramedic responds, they get a full workup, they get a 12 lead, they might even get IV and nitro. And then someone says, you know what, I've been in these situations, right? I've decided I don't want to go to the hospital for any number of reasons. If care was delivered to that patient, then some insurance companies do allow a billing pathway for people that received actual medical care but did not get transported. Those are still very iffy. Every insurance company handles them differently. Many of the privates would probably just tell you they're not interested in reimbursing it for any reason. But there are, especially with government insurance, there are some pathways to bill for patients that received medical care but did not get transported. It's almost certainly not going to be at the full rate. It's something that's going to be negotiated, and if it was going to be private insurance, it would almost definitely have to be negotiated ahead of time with the health group.
Okay, thank you.
Chief?
Mr. Wilson spoke about practical inclusion, and I agree with practical inclusion on dealings. Practical inclusion really comes from your uneven use of public funds to secure contracts that are dramatically lower than everyone knows that, right? I don't think there's a great deal based on their service as it stands right now. And I think the biggest thing that can come here, they're not knowledge. If you look at the per capita breast income, we're at 72, right? We're at 32. We have people are at $61, and they're at $11 per crisis, right? So when we're using federal funds to secure contracts, right? I don't think that's where we start money, right? We're using federal funds to outbid existing services, including local nonprofit. He does have, but they're not outside his impact. So I think that's the question. That's truly, our funds are going to help. None of this was like help to me. It hasn't like help to make money. It doesn't like help, right? I appreciate Susan's own comments, right? I've kind of here for a long time. You've been very helpful. I'm sure that's absolutely true. To me, this gets an outline. Because again, I don't think you feel, I certainly don't feel like you very helpful, right? And also, you were built, right, to support the Louisville. It's a long-standing fear regionally with the failed Louisville, right? When it did fail, myself, Tyler, residents who have done that before, you saw the whole body 42 hours for free, right? Which large secure service as a solution looking for a problem, right? When the Lucio failed, when the group did not get over to Lucio and change the landscape of that, I believe, I know when it started during the work staff, it was a true tipping point when you did not go to Lucio, right? When that merger didn't happen, right? When that transition from health to competition, right? And that is not fair. I think you're in the wrong posture, right? I have a good understanding of the region and the responses. There's great need out there. My department has always been bringing support and help. And this is not for support. I can say for being a Boston nurse service for a long time, right? One thing I always say is the truth, right? Things change, there's two reasons, one reasons, right? Things change after tragedy. Don't be great leaders, right? I don't like tragedies in Cincinnati. There's a lot of great leaders in this room, and a lot of great intent in this room. I can stand right now. We're all going to fail, right? Cooperation, collaboration is the only way to move forward. It really is, right? I fear, truly fearful. This is not a ploy or a tactic or a bargaining chip, right? Someone who's in charge of life safety in my city and all of the backgrounds, addressing me withdrawals, right? First, you think they might take that level of service leaves the area. It's going to be problematic. We're going to have trouble. And Mr. Coates, you spoke at the city council when I first started working a year and a half ago, and he said it's truly about life and death. It is truly about life and death. It really is. We're missing that. We're all missing that, right? We're off bases, we're out of personal task, maybe I know it will weight off things. There's a lot of stuff that's supposed to figure out what's how to help, right? And not our comparison, because it will cost less. And I'm exhausted doing this issue professionally, with the person exhausted with this issue. Finally, what I'll say is, you have a boatload of money from ARPA, right? It was meant to help in the post-COVID era. And for my sake, you gotta help.
Thank you. I think it's good.
Mayor, Sullivan, also responded to a comment that made, Sullivan. Do you want the mic? I think, I'll just talk about that. It's like, something that I think is the umbrella that we are all faced with here. The umbrella is that, I think it's on. The umbrella, it covers us all. It's the quality of response. It's the speed of response. It's knowing the lay of the land. It's knowing the towns. It's coming to the towns. We have an incredible fire department. All volunteers. We have representation from 2 of our people here. The fire department can do it all, and we need people who really are on the top of quality, service. Cost is important. We all look at cost, but we need people if we want to live. When we get a response here, we want good response, fast response, people who are communicative with us. So in response to what everyone is thinking, this is about patient care. This is about response and timing. And you know what? We have to be very peaceful. And location, we know we're close to some people, but it's not close to everyone. And so I'm very aware of towns that are further out. And no one really talks about the overall quality of what we're getting as people, knowing the land, knowing the area, knowing that we've been following here for 22 years or whatever the time frame was. So I think a lot of it is skipped. Fully aware of the pricing structure, but the pricing structure may not be the key piece. It's quality. That's exactly what you're saying. Response time, and our volunteers are incredible. Our fire department, I know most of yours are too, and we really need a backup service that supports what we do with a uniform consistency, communication, everything that we do. We're a small town. We're a really small town. And the same, similar to all of you. And I don't think the political piece of it is not what's primary. I think that we have to talk about the people. And I don't think there was enough of that said. And forgive me, I'm rambling on. But I think that's a really critical piece to what we're saying here and the role.
Paul, I'm a selectman and salt, and I'm also a Human Theater firefighter. What I'm seeing really, if you want to do an analogy, this is the EMS service for our towns is like the Titanic, and the ship is sinking. And you're looking at different rowboats, they're saying, hey, you can jump on us, we'll be there to help you. The thing that I am troubled by is that we don't have enough time to collaborate. And I'm sad to hear my perspective is that you're done. You just want us to make a decision. The problem I have is that the decision is not one that I think is a true decision, because I'm going to make the decision based on what's good for the person who's having a heart attack in my town. If you guys are going to give me an ambulance in the town of Sullivan, or the town of Richmond, or Stoddard, it's a no-brainer. But that's not going to happen. It might happen 5 years, 6 years, 4 years down the road. But in the meantime, it seems that Rescue Mint, she paid for them coming in, has provided a stopgap measure that has benefited everybody in this town. and why we're not sitting down with Rescue Inc. and the county and Keene to try to figure out what is the best thing that we can do together. You know, the letter that Rescue Inc. sent, it was quite clear that, you know, with the loss of Swanzey and things, that really questioned the viability of Rescue Inc. being able to stay in the area. And I agree with the chief from Keene, if Rescue Inc. goes away, you are not going to be able to fill that gap.
Well, I fundamentally disagree with that. We're already staffed more than the 2 rescuing ambulances that are here. We've got 6 ambulances already certified at the paramedic level. At the time that we learned that Deluzio might go under, we had 5 ambulances staffed and ready to go if needed, which is more than are available in the region now. So that's a fundamental mistake. With 8 ambulances, we'll have more than anybody. But again, I'm not getting into this, my dog is bigger than your dog. You know, we have the capacity, we have the structure to meet the needs as they've always been met and then some. There's nothing wrong with Rescue Inc. I spoke with Drew on May 4th, 2022 to ask him if there was an opportunity for him to come across the river and help out, and he said no, and he had no interest in it. I understand things are different now, but we have tried to do some cooperative, collaborative stuff so that we didn't have to. But here we are. So now you still have choices.
It's been said a few times in a few different ways, and I think it's probably accurate. The time for asking and getting questions answered is somewhat over, because whatever we're told, what really is going to control is whatever contract we have. I think Selectman Manimal's comment is a good one. I think it's one of our concerns that, yes, after the 3 or 4 years is one thing, but if the county's under an obligation to maintain viability on the enterprise fund, and after a year, they don't make their nut. What is that going to mean? So to kind of transition a little bit, our staff has prepared some provisional contract terms that we think is important, at least for us, to have in a contract, whichever firm we go with. A few of them are specific, except the one about the enterprise fund, but I'd like to hand those out now and give everyone an opportunity to review them. Just a page front and back. I need to take their fonts, it's a little easier to read, but I think ultimately whatever you're told tonight, if it's not in the contract, it kind of doesn't matter. So I think it's important to consider some of these options. We obviously welcome additional thoughts or input. They're all the same. Yeah,
It's been a while.
Not a lawyer, and those are not reviewed by lawyers, you want to review them with your lawyers. So frankly, I thought both of those proposals did have a lot of detail, but a lot of the important things were talked about. What are acceptable response? What are acceptable levels? It's not clear. Thoughts, clarity. You're already done?
I have some existing questions I'd like to ask.
Would you mind pausing this for a minute?
Yep, no problem.
So my understanding correctly, this is the criteria that's
Just some suggestions.
All right, this is in response to number 4 on your list. Each ambulance will be staffed with a minimum crew size of 2 licensed persons. The ambulance shall be staffed with at least 1 ALS provider. And in the county contracts that many of us have received, it said may be staffed with an ALS provider. Anyone from the county can answer this question. Do you currently employ anyone at the EMR certification level, and do they respond on your ambulances?
No, we do not.
There are no EMRs, and they do not respond on the areas. Okay, very good. And at this point in time, you said you have 6 paramedic ambulances available, is that correct?
Yes.
So right now, there are 6 paramedic ambulances available for either interfacility transfers or 911 calls?
Yes.
At this very moment?
They're staffed according to demand, but they're all licensed, equipped paramedic vehicles.
So they have paramedic equipment on it, but not necessarily paramedics?
Well, no, not if you don't need them.
Okay, so right now, there are 2 existing 911 services that you provide, primary EMS for, right? Town of Richmond, us being one and Westmoreland being the other, plus interfacility transfers. So at this very moment, if there was a, let's say, Delta level call in Richmond and a Delta level call in Westmoreland, both requiring a medic, would there be a medic available to respond to both of those things?
At this moment, correct.
And is that because there's not a truck on interfacility transfers that has the medic on it, or do you have 3 medics available? How are you staffed?
We are staffed, we are moving our staff into 3 medics per day.
3, okay. And how many total people are on staff at a single time?
Currently none.
How many providers do you have on duty during the day? Like what is your staffing model 24 hours a day?
9.
9. And what is the certification level of those 9?
A minimum of 2 paramedics, the rest are AEMTs and NMTs.
Is one of those paramedics at all times reserved for a transfer job?
911 state priority over transfers.
So, and this is I just need an answer for this one. If there's a call in Westmoreland that requires a medic, and your second medic is on a transfer, and Richmond needs a medic, where is that medic coming from?
If needed, I will step up to the ambulance.
And you live in Richmond, so that's very convenient. But what if this was... Excellent answer. What if this was Harrisville? Would you still be the person responding even from home to Harrisville? Is that how that chain of command would work?
That is why I have a county issue vehicle.
But if that medic was needed in Harrisville, they would have to wait for your response time from home to Harrisville.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Last meeting, Selectman from Richmond asked what I feel like is a really important question, and that's the process for using ARPA funds to possibly offset the costs of other services. Is that an option, and has a process been made to outline that? So whether it's Rescue Inc., or if we want to go with Winchester because they're right next door, or if it's William down the road, if we were able to get a contract offer from them, would we be able to use ARPA funds at the town of Richmond to help offset and ease that burden of increased cost or potentially increased costs over the same 3-year term that you're offering if we sign with you?
No.
Why?
We have obligated our ARPA funds. We have a long-term plan, and it doesn't include funding every other ambulance service. We did for what you're asking, we would have an obligation to do that to every other community as well as continuing our own service.
So the ARPA funds were specifically for the development of Cheshire EMS, the enterprise fund, not for the county of Cheshire?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I will say, I think Cheshire County is the only county in the state that did give some of their ARPA funds to the towns. So we did.
Which is absolutely correct. We sent a check to every town, including the city of Keene, which is the largest beneficiary.
Okay, to ask one more question. Over the last, we'll say 2 months, you've been responding to Richmond and Westmoreland. With the data just from Richmond and Westmoreland responses, not incorporating interfacility transfers into the mix, do you know your costs and your revenue from that?
No.
Do you have a working spreadsheet or document that's keeping track of the predicted costs for things as you go?
We do, but there's a lag in the payment, and so, no.
Okay. So you are
Are you
predicting.
asking the same questions of Rescue Inc. in terms of the paramedic response as well?
Yes.
Or is it just us?
Yeah, and they responded to our
All right.
inquiries earlier in the week. So you're predicting costs. Right now, we've started a 911 service, which we've been working very well with you guys, and we appreciate everything you're doing for our town. But the costs that you are predicting is with no factual documentation on what you are receiving back in revenue. You're anticipating it, but you don't have anything on paper. You don't know how much of the billing you've received or the numbers that you've received back, and you're not sure of what the actual costs are that you've experienced over those last 2 months. Is that correct?
We have 5 years of data that we built the model on, and we have built out something on the order of $1.6 million.
And is that budget built on the assumption that you're going to have every contract? I've looked over the budget
No.
that's on the website, and that the number of contract fees that you are planning on having seems to insinuate that you would have every town in the county signed on with you in order to make that budget balance. Is that correct?
One of those models anticipated that we would be doing all in because we had to see what those numbers look like. We're not there yet, obviously. We have a long way to go. But as a function of budgeting, we budgeted for the maximum exposure and the maximum gun coverage. It's just a model. We're not there yet. We're not even halfway there.
Are you able to predict at this time with the Westmoreland and Richmond numbers, plus your interfacility transfers right now, and the repair and cost of operating your business, are you on pace to be a solvent enterprise fund this year?
Yes.
Without even knowing what you're getting back. That's without grant funds, without subsidies, without knowing what you're getting back in billed revenue. You can guarantee that you're on pace to be a solvent enterprise fund this year.
I'm not guareeing anything,
but you feel like you're going to be close.
As I said before, we're standing behind the model that we've created based on 5 years of reimbursement and rundown. You can argue about that, but that's the model, and we're sticking to it.
And that data was received from where? From Deluzio's records? From other ambulance services? Was it data from this particular?
I'm not going down this road. We're not going to dissect the model or the budget.
It is hear me out, sir, and I feel like I'm speaking for many chiefs and many of the select people and persons that are here. This is one of the bigger questions that we have, and this is why we're a little bit uncomfortable with the contracts that you're offering, because these facts aren't there, and it's not in black and white. Rescue Inc. has offered us a model, though it's expensive and a price that we don't necessarily want to pay, at least it's in black and white. There's a spreadsheet, there's a working document that says, this is our personnel cost, this is how much we have received in revenue over the past 10 years from all of these different insurance providers. This is the cost it costs us to run a transfer. This is what it costs us to go to this town. This is how much fuel costs. It's all average, it's all data, and it's all compiled. And you said there's no company anywhere that can predict the cost in the next 4 years. And I feel like we have that option, and I'm hoping you have that option to prove to us too. But I'm not seeing that number right now, and that's why I have a lot of questions.
I understand.
Brian Mitchell, I'm the deputy fire chief in West Lane. Really don't have a horse in this race. I haven't had any yet, so I'm starting to get grumpy. I've been disappointed with the pettiness and the attacks that have occurred over social media. I don't really follow it or get into it, but I've heard the fallout. And it seems that there's some of that here tonight as well. I'm a school teacher, I'm a volunteer firefighter, I'm an advanced EMT, and I've been doing so for about 20 years. I worked at Deluzio for many years, and there were times that, let me back up. EMS is a service that everybody needs, but nobody really wants, right? The town needs it, no individual really wants it. It would not be reasonable, feasible for any organization to be able to absolutely ensure that there is an ambulance available, let alone a paramedic level ambulance available 100% of the time. When I worked at Deluzio, there were times where we didn't have a paramedic available for a call that needed it. There were times that we didn't have an ambulance available for a call that needed it. And that's where the mutual aid and the collaboration comes in. We got great service from the city of Keene for decades. There were times when Keene didn't have a paramedic available, and there were times that Keene didn't have an ambulance available. Again, we relied on mutual aid. In terms of the service that the county has provided to us thus far, and again, it's only been since April, I have been perpetually impressed every call that they've responded in the quality of the care, in the response that has been initiated for us. Yes, we do have the benefit of having an ambulance stationed right in our town at this point. So absolutely, the response times are better now than they've ever been before. But the county is also sending additional resources our way on the majority of the calls as well. So that in terms of questions of the quality, there really are none. The quality has been absolutely incredible. They have on every call followed up and ensured that there is that collaborative effort with us. Their responses to our needs. During the response, they're checking in with us to see what we need in order to provide the best level of service to our patients. Again, as much as I'd like to be retired, I'm not yet. So during the day, we rely on them for the coverage, and they have not let us down. Is there going to come a time where the county is not able to respond to a call in the Westland? I'm sure there is, and that's nothing against them. We've had big incidents in the area, and we're going to continue to do so. I think one of the benefits of the county, and both of the gentlemen referenced this, is we are the county. Keene provided us a service, but I'm not intending this as an insult, but Westmoreland is not the priority of the city of Keene, nor should it be, right? The city of Keene is the priority of the city of Keene, whereas Westmoreland is part of Cheshire County. We are Cheshire County, so I guess I feel that there is a little bit greater priority there for us. So, as I said, I'm going to go home and get some dinner, but please do understand that the quality of care has been absolutely incredible. I look forward to continued collaboration with the county. As Selectman Snowden mentioned, we've done some outreach in terms of education for our town that we've never been able to do before. So I am completely happy with our relationship and the service that they've provided. Thank you.
So the elephant in the room is what are you doing, Swansea? The rest of us are kind of at your mercy. They did. Speak for
The elephant is about to speak. we intended hearing from the other communities tonight to assist us in our decision. I had said from the beginning, we were close to making a decision. We still are. Swanzey has a tremendous cost feature between the two ambulance services. I appreciate everything that Keene has said. I appreciate everything that Representative Eaton and Jack Wozniak have said. Now we will take into consideration all the testimony tonight. And I think that we have to make a decision. Do we not? Pretty much, yes. So, to answer your question, I can't speak for the other two. However, I know where my feelings lie at the moment. And so with that in mind, I need to get together with my two brethren and come up with this. So from that standpoint, we appreciate everybody being here tonight. I frankly don't think there's a need for another meeting. I think we can make our own decision. And again, we appreciate everybody in their input.
25 years ago, Lee was fire chief in Swansea here. I was a fire lieutenant, EMTI. Keene did our transports. And we went out on a limb. We signed a contract suggested the selectmen sign a contract with Delusio. That's when Delusio started 911 for response to Swansea. And it was a big lift to jump off because Keene was great. But at the time, EMS was a problem. 25 years ago. Believe it or not, still a problem. But by Swansea going to Delusio, we added 3 ambulances to the 911 service. I think it benefited, I remember as on the Board of Engineers, I said that it benefited the whole county, whole region, because we added 3 911 ambulances. Just because we signed a contract and supported Delusio. Delusio was great to the town of Swansea. Keene's been great to the town of Swansea. But as far as my opinion of this situation, I can't justify spending $250,000 more for the next 3 years, every year for the next 3 years, to have a backup ambulance service. So Delusio did it for 25 years at a greatly reduced rate for a standby fee. And maybe that was a problem. Maybe they should have charged more. I think Swansea was getting a good deal because, you know, at the time we were 500 or 600 EMS calls, and now we're up to 800 and something. But that's just where I stand. And I thank you all for coming.
not even a tough decision for me. So, thank you.
I know I've spoken a lot, but in closing, we discussed this as a department quite a bit the other night at our meeting. And I think shopping for an EMS contract is something we can't all relate to, but when we think about it as shopping for something that we all had to shop for, as unfortunate it is a new vehicle, right? And when you're buying a new vehicle, you compare costs of all sorts of brands and makes and models. And we don't just look at costs though, we look at things like miles per gallon, quality of parts, available warranties, safety ratings, interest rates, payments, things like that. Right? There's a lot of things that go into it, not just the final cost. So when we approach the EMS contract looking at it the same way, what do we know for a fact about all of these different contracts, or both of these contracts that were being offered? I think it's very easy to see which one can answer some of those tougher questions. And for the town of Richmond, speaking with the department the other night, at about $40 per taxpayer, which is the cost difference, right? The number's very big, but it comes down to $40 a taxpayer, which is not a huge increase. Now, where does that stop, right? I can already hear the budget committee talking and some very concerned citizens, right? Oh, well, you're gonna take $40 there, where's another 50 coming from? All of a sudden my taxes are up $100, $500. But for $40 a taxpayer, for us to have peace of mind in the town of Richmond, going with a service that we've used for many, many years, that has been proven and has a proven backup service, that's a cost that we are willing to recommend to the selectmen. Again, not saying that Richmond has made a decision, but we as a department have taken a stance and are prepared to present to the selectmen that we feel like that $40 a taxpayer is a worthwhile investment in the security of EMS in the town of Richmond. That's how we've made our decision. As a department, not as a town.
I have a quick question for the county. I wrestled for many, many years with recovering revenue from insurance companies. Is the county going to take that on themselves, or are you going to pass it on to a vendor for a cost, of course? And there are many of them, but they are specialists, and they know how to twist arms to the insurance company. I'm just curious whether I seriously doubt the EMS group is going to try to do that. Is the county budget people going to do that?
It is not the county budget people. We have a vendor that is going to take care of our billing and is chasing it down. And as an add-on, a chairman of the committee and I are meeting with the county administrator and the insurance commissioner to work on dedicated legislation. And everybody in the room knows, insurance companies have been just slimy and dishonest. And when they get a bill, they'll cost you a percentage of it and then send some of the money back to the victim. We're going to try to do some corrective measures, and we're going to try to do it rapid fire in this next session of the legislature. And if anybody of you know individual insurance companies, you got to be blunt. They've been absolute scum when it comes to EMS billing and taking care of their people. The people pay the premiums. They're not taking care of it and leaving it into the wind to be chased by bill collectors, and it's wrong. We're going to try to fix it. Yeah, we're chasing that money.
Appreciate it.
I just spoke with the chair, and I think it was a very valid question that was asked of the elephant in the room. And we've made our decision, and I'm sure that you all know what that is. I think that what impacted me at this meeting was the disappointment at hearing the exchange between the city of Keene and the county, and to some degree Rescue Inc. And understanding that what we had hoped for would be a collaborative effort amongst the three or four agencies. And apparently that's not the case. And for me personally, that is a disappointment, because I know most of the individuals involved, and I know they're all good people, and I trust them that they're going to continue to work to collaborate. But we've known for years, as Sly mentioned, that EMS was a problem. We have a problem with fire department. We have a problem with police departments. Many of the towns are being covered by the sheriff's department now because they can't staff their own departments. We have a problem with trash hauling. We just, in general, have difficulty solving our individual needs, and we need to find a way to continue to work collectively to move the process forward so that we solve the problems that we have. But in this particular circumstance, we all believe that the services provided by Rescue Inc. and by the county are second to none. And we've enjoyed a great relationship with Keene as a backup for Deluzio. The major disappointment I have is being told by a city official that Rescue Inc. will back up the city and Keene will back up Rescue Inc., but nobody will back up the county. And I find that to be terribly unfortunate, and I hope that situation has changed. And as we look at matters, I think we had a comment by Cody Morrison earlier in our meeting that Swanzey is becoming a spillover town. And that's true. We're doing our job. We're working hard. The mayor mentioned that the county needed 750 housing units. Well, Swansea's going to provide 500 of those. So we are doing our part. But when it comes down to this decision, it's a very easy decision. It's a decision between $80,000 a year and $320,000 a year. We don't know where it's going to be in 4 years, but as Sly mentioned, we know we're going to save over $700,000 over the next 3 years. And that is our decision. And it's only fair that you know that. I think if you were in our shoes, I don't know that you would all agree with this, but I suspect that the majority of you would. And that is our decision.
Bill, can I respond, please?
Absolutely.
So I too am very disappointed that we were not able to come up with a regional approach, a network, and a relationship between all organizations. Because truthfully, Keene can do its own thing, and we successfully do it. We don't have a need to go to the county for support, but we do have to have some sort of mutual aid backup. And that was the point I was trying to make, because no matter how big the county grows, so will you. And Rescue Inc. will need backup. City of Keene will need backup. And the only way it works is through a collaborative relationship. And I have been so disappointed that and I have tried, because I have been in the forefront of this, pushing this issue. I've been so disappointed that we could not even come to any sort of collaborative understanding. Instead, we keep going back to competition. You competed for our contract in Westmoreland, and then you moved here. And that, if we could have just looked at the map and said, this makes sense for us to cover, this makes sense for you to cover, and then we could come to a system-wide network. So, Bill, I agree with you. I'm disappointed, and maybe it's too late in the game when we start pushing this issue. And the reason we're not backing up the county is we can't. If we are going to have a relationship with Rescue Inc., and they're going to back us up, and we're going to back up the work that they're doing with the community in terms of transfers for the skilled nursing homes, we cannot. So it's not because we dislike the county, it's because we did not come to some sort of agreement that would work for us all. And that is really unfortunate, because we don't get a chance again. You're going to build infrastructure throughout this county. you're gonna build substations, you're gonna buy ambulances, and it's gonna be based on contracts that everyone's gonna compete for. It's just not a good model, and we're not learning from the rest of the state who's doing exactly that. So, yeah, I'm disappointed too.
I just want to be on record to say, like, as you can see tonight, I've been quiet. I've been sitting in the back, killing me. But I want to be on the record to say that we did work hard. We did try to find that common ground. We called it common ground. You know, after the meeting, I heard you. Thought about it a few days. The commissioners said, reach out to them. So we reached out. We happened to be going to a conference. And we were going to be in the same place for a few days. So Elizabeth and I met for an hour and a half. It was a tough conversation on some levels. And out of that, we said, all right, let's take next steps. What does that look like? She took the lead and brought us all together from that perspective. But I'm going to give credit where credit goes, because it goes around the table. All right? But we all knew at any time this could blow up this conversation. And it could be because I couldn't agree. It could be because the commissioners couldn't agree. It could be because he couldn't agree, whatever it may be. So we had that first meeting. That first meeting, I will tell you, it was brutal. And it was hard. But we made progress. And at the very end, I said, what is the plan that you envision? Because I wanted to know, leaving that room, if we could even move forward. And I will state what it is, and if I get anything wrong, you guys can correct me, because I know you will. And that's in jest, because that's how we went about it after a while. So it was that Keene would maintain, you and Keene, of course. Keene would maintain the 4 towns that they had. Rescue Inc. would back up Keene in those, for the city of Keene in the 4 contracted towns. Rescue Inc. would take on all the town's contracts. They would also do the nursing homes. And the city of Keene would back, I was getting that, the city of Keene would back us up to the western end. We would be the backup for rescuing on the 911s.
And rescuing could be back for you.
For whatever, what do we have?
Nothing.
Right, and we had, and Greatbrook was part of those discussions too. Because that's our partner coming into this thing, because we all agree that there has to be a network that would be built. And I don't see, even with any decisions made here tonight, that we still can't try and find common ground. Because I haven't asked Keene for anything more than what they've been doing in the past, but we weren't there. So I said, okay, it was a pill. We had to swallow the pill. All right, it was hard initially, but I said, all right, let's keep moving this forward. We moved forward multiple more meetings. I got to a point where I said, I got to bring the commissioners, Elizabeth, and the chief came. We had a meeting there. They laid it all out. The commissioners, again, a little struggled with what they were presenting, to be truthful, but it was a good, hard discussion. We moved forward. At that point, we started talking about MOUs. We started talking about contracts. It was at that point I said, I need to talk to the chair of the delegation, because I got multiple bosses I got to report to. And it was at that point he applauded us. His first words was, I applaud your effort, but I am struggling with the idea that we're taking off the table any decision that towns have, and we're telling them they have to go. Whether that's right or wrong, that was his concern. So I actually communicated immediately, once all the discussions went through it, to Elizabeth to tell her that, and I told her where we were and why we were at the point we were. Jay, you needed to have time to think. I said something else, and you said you were disappointed because you had hoped that this collaboration could have built this network. It wasn't a negative experience. It was a good experience because we had to get through some tough talks. And we just got to a point where we just couldn't move on any farther because a decision had been made. And we knew that bomb could be dropped at any point. It could have been you all. You could all sat here and said, who are you to tell us? Or are you strong-arming us? Or whatever. We understood that. But we wanted to go down this road to see how far we could get. I hope that we can continue on some level to have some level of conversation that supports all of us. Because I know we're all going to need each other at some point. It's as simple as that. I also will tell you that Michael happened to be at the same conference
And I literally got out of my car, was heading in, was coming back out to get something, and he's like, have you talked to Elizabeth yet? And I said, Michael, we just got at the conference, because he knew I was going to speak to her. I also will tell you that there were some towns that were looking to possibly vote. And I text or emailed or talked directly to people, said, take your time, relax, and consider more thoughts about it. Because we were in the midst of the negotiation, and I didn't want any decision to be made. So if there's, I don't want any negative to be sent at this process, because I thought it was an honest process. I thought we worked in good faith. I thought it was a tough conversation at times, even to a point where the chief came over and said, I don't know if it's going to work, and I turned around and said, no, we're going back in, you're going to go back in, you're going to figure it out. So I just wanted to bring that forward and leave it at that.
Are these minutes available anywhere from this meeting?
Not,
Yeah.
And I also give credit, Chris and I have a great relationship, by the way, and we can tell each other when we're angry about something or how we really feel, which is wonderful to have. And we respect each other very much, and we had some good, really hard conversations, but we only had two. And it's so late in the process, and so that's the important part.
And I will tell you that I can send you the non-publics now. I mean, we have a non-public meeting. There's been a moment to tell you that we had discussion about this, but that's the only document I can share with you if that's what you want.
Okay, I'm just looking for an outline of what the agreement might have been, just to share with, is that?
But I just outlined to you, unless what was.
I just want to share it with people that weren't here. Select.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what was.
You want to share that with Harrisville also?
I have some copies of it here, I didn't want to get.
No, you just pass.
Right?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing. I know there's a conversation about underbidding and competing, that sort of thing. When the delegation advised us that they wanted to ease the transition to responsible pricing, Rescue Inc. wasn't even at the table. They weren't even on the landscape. There wasn't anybody else to undercut. We were just trying to give the taxpayers a break to ease them into a revised pricing schedule. So I guess, we weren't out there trying to lowball anybody because there wasn't anybody else. There's the Westmoreland thing, but we've had those discussions back and forth. That is what it is. But I just want to make that clear that there was no undercutting because there was no other players. We were just trying to give the taxpayers a break. And that's what we're still trying to do.
If I can follow up. There was no competition. We did not solicit Westmoreland. We didn't go after Westmoreland. And as the selectman said tonight, Westmoreland came after us. And I think Chris and Elizabeth even debated that, of whether we should let them, but they are residents of the county, we're a county service. It came down to the obligation was for us to do that. We didn't want any other key contracts or anything different than what we're dealing with. But mostly in this meeting, my primary objection was if we went along with what the agreement was at this meeting, we were forcing every single town to do an action without their consultation. We're blocking them and boxing them, and that is nothing that either party has a right to do.
Well, except for we were creating a plan for a network for the whole county that we were going to put forward at this meeting. That's not the same as.
I think,
Seems like a conversation. Elsewhere.
very hard to take anybody. We don't really have choices in the small towns. And the county has done us no favors by rather than collaborating, spending money, and creating a system without us. We've known this was a problem. You started off in the right direction, and then you just left the rest of us behind. And we will work with whatever service is available to us. But we have no choice, and the back and forth politics is abysmal to listen to. You guys could take that elsewhere, and the rest of us could have a conversation.
Here, here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for coming.